Minister, tens of thousands of people are now refusing to pay the TV licence. The licence, as you know, is €160, and people are voting with their feet in huge numbers. And really, is it any wonder? People are understandably angry. They feel they're being taken for a ride. The recent financial scandals at RTE, the latest chapter of which is the debacle of Toy Show the musical, has rocked people's trust and confidence in the national broadcaster. The number of people refusing to pay has soared in the aftermath of these scandals, and 60 people a day face prosecution for non-payment. A staggering 13,000 people were summoned before the courts last year. So there is a real crisis now, and the danger is that funding for public service broadcasting drains away while government twiddles its thumbs. As public support for the TV licence collapses, the government is all over the place. The government's position is a merry-go-round of contradictions and mixed messages that's driving people up the walls. Minister Catherine Martin says she's in favour of abolishing the licence and replacing it with exchequer funding, but Minister Paschal Donoghue says that the TV licence should remain a core part of RTE funding and suggests that revenue might collect the fee. Meanwhile, Minister Michael McGrath says the licence should remain in place and that he's not in favour of replacing it with direct exchequer funding. And then only yesterday, the Taoiseach described the licence as outdated and said that it belongs to a different time. So you can see why people's heads are spinning, Minister. The government has promised for years to come up with a new model to replace the TV licence, and yet here you are, plodding along in a mist of confusion and a licence that now does not enjoy widespread public support. And the public do want decisive action on this, Minister. For our part, Sinn Féin would abolish the TV licence and invest exchequer funding into supporting public service media in Ireland to put it on a sustainable footing. This, of course, is in line with the recommendations of the Future of Media Commission report, a report that's been sitting on government's desk for 2 years now. Such an approach would remove the unfair nature of the licence and remove the ridiculous idea that the state might chase thousands of people through the courts for non-payment of a licence that's on the verge of collapse. So Caithfidh Rialtas dera occur leis an táille, agus muoinú dera chun stáit ciste occur ina áit, chun todhchaí a chinsiú de Crealachan Servishi Puebli. Minister, despite the damaging fiascos of the last year, people understand the value and importance of public service broadcasting, but they do want government to be upfront about how it's going to be funded into the future. They want a modern funding model that works and delivers value for money. So, Minister, can I invite you to bring some clarity today? I put it to you that government should scrap the TV licence and replace it with direct exchequer funding. That, in my view, is the best way to rebuild public trust and ensure a strong future for public service broadcasting in Ireland. What, Minister, is your position on this?
My position is we have to support public service broadcasting and indeed a whole range of media organisations in this country, because in a world full of disinformation, fake news, conspiracy theories, it's really important that you have accurate and balanced and fair reporting. And absolutely, this government will deliver a new format of broadcasting support, of funding for such broadcasts, not just for RTE. That has been delayed, and it was delayed because of the events last summer leading into this autumn, where there was controversy in what happened in RTE. I don't need to rehearse all the details. The various Oireachtas committees have done it in real depth and detail. And that process will conclude in the coming weeks. We have, I think, another report tomorrow initiated by RTE on the governance of the whole severance payments, and then the 2 final reports on the governance issue due in February will allow us to come to a conclusion of that process and set out the future payments and supports for RTE and indeed for other media organisations through whichever mechanism, be it through direct exchequer payment or household payment or whatever other arrangements that we will decide upon. So we will do that. Can I come back to you, though, and ask, and that clarity can only come when government has made that decision. But I think Sinn Féin also have to provide certain clarity from what you've said today. And the first question and clarity is, are you suggesting people not pay the TV licence in that interim period? Because if you do, I think that would be very damaging and dangerous, because we do need to keep that funding to keep it through. So I would prefer clarity, because you seem to insinuate that that would not be the case. It would be good to get clarity on that. Secondly, I would have to argue, in a world where media is increasingly under threat and is increasingly finding difficult funding models and others, Sinn Féin's position in taking repeated legal actions against various media here is similarly, in my mind, having a significant impact on the independence and strength of Irish media. So yes, we will resolve the funding issue. It was appropriate in my mind to do so when the various immediate governance issues in RTE had been addressed and resolved. And we have to do it in a way that we do provide significant funding. If it comes from the Exchequer, that's still being paid by the Irish people. That money would have to come from possibly some other budget, be it social welfare, disability or wherever. It's not a magic money tree, so you do have to make sure that it's well spent and that we raise the tax revenues to cover that. In the interim period, people should pay the licence fee, in my mind, because it provides a real service of value to the Irish people. It provides real strength to our democracy and our country. So I will say, and I'm keen to hear you say the same, yes, pay your licence fee in the interim period, because that actually is money that's well spent and serves us well. And we will then address the longer term issue within the coming months, before the summer period, so that we set it on a course that is stable and continuous and delivers. I'm glad in your closing comments you said people respect the value of public service broadcasting, because I believe they do. For all their flaws, and all of us in the political system, we all have our difficulties with our various media organisations. From time to time, we differ on how they cover us. But I think any fair assessment would say, in RTE and our other media organisations, particularly in current affairs, that by and large we are well served with a media which is independent, fair and not biased, not deserving to be attacked by legal challenge or by other public commentary which does them down, which I've heard too much from our political system, in my mind. Thank you.
Deputy MacDonald. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Ciarán Comhairle. Well, I've heard some bluster in my time, but that really was now a bravura performance of absolute rubbish, sound and fury signifying nothing. My God, it's remarkable how one person can talk so much and say so very, very little in response to a very straightforward question. Are you for the TV licence or not? I've stated our position. It's in line with the expert view of an expert commission, which when they published, remember, Minister, you dismissed that view. We don't do that. We accept their view. The correct answer is direct exchequer funding. Will it be the licence, yes or no? And on the matter of paying our TV licence, Ciarán Comhairle, I'm happy to record I have paid mine. I have paid mine. I have made no suggestion that people not pay their licence. As a matter of fact, save your homily for Catherine Martin, your colleague, who equivocated on the matter. What I do wish to be clear on is that the state and your government should not chase thousands of people through the courts for non-payment of the licence. And remember, Minister, it seems only the ordinary Joe who hasn't paid their licence, they're the only people who have faced the wrath of anything or been held accountable in the midst of all the scandal. So can I put my question again, and can I have a direct answer? Will you abolish the TV licence, yes or no, Minister?
We will provide an alternative funding mechanism. I do not expect it to be a continuation of the current licensing system, and the exact details will have to be agreed with government before I can give you the final answer on that. Can you give similar clarity? You're paying your licence. Would you encourage Sinn Féin supporters to also pay theirs? Well, I think it's important, because we do have a role in public life in standing up for raising taxation to pay for the services that we need in this interim period. You're also correct what you said. It is correct what you said, that when the initial report came out from Brian and everyone else who did the review of the future of the Media Commission, that there was concern in government among the party leaders about a potential switch just to exchequer-based funding. The main reason for that concern was for fear in a future government you could well have political interference that would fundamentally undermine the independence of Irish media. That was the concern and the reason for such concern. Now, I believe, well, there have been historic cases, if you look at the history of Archie and others, when there was improper and undue political interference. It's not rocket science to say that. I believe we can overcome that by putting in place secure mechanisms that such political interference would not be successful. But that's complicated, and there are various other options. We will make that, but we stand up in this government for an independent media that gives strength to our democracy, which Archie and other media organisations do at the moment, and we will fund them into the future to make sure they continue to do that.
Look, could we all calm down a little bit, please?